Yes, hello everyone and welcome back to the Dynasty Hot Seat, the only Dynasty show that is a certified inferno. And we are back with some rookie ADP based on, some of the best and brightest in the Dynasty community. Guys like the Dynasty nerds, like, Fantasyland, like Fantasy Pros. You got people like the Dynasty Rewind team, just the biggest names you can think of. Do me a favor, actually, before we get into it, if there's anybody you think these guys absolutely kill it with the mock drafts, and then drop it down below and I'll see if I can use them in the next ADP so I can kind of gather more and more sources to see if I can get this ADP as accurate as possible. And of course, we're using the last episode of the Dynasty Hot Seat with Garrett Price. If you've not seen that, check it out. It is awesome. So what we're going to do, take all that data, average it all out, and see kind of what the industry is thinking in general about these rookies and where they land on an average draft position. And just want to say thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new here, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button as well. It really helps grow the channel and, helps me get more motivated for cool videos like this. So let's kind of get right into it. And before we get into our big, long list of who's who, we'll start off with a couple of special mentions. So we'll tick those across the bottom. We got Mims, Abanikanda, Hooker, Roschon Johnson, we've got Brown and Dell, and Xavier Hutchinson, special mention every single week pretty much. Never quite makes the list. So those guys, if you're wondering, hey, Max, where are those guys? They're in the special mentions. Just missed out on the top 24 in those two rounds. So without further ado, let's get into it. What we'll do is go through all 20. I'm going to focus in on 3 players in particular, and we'll talk about them in a bit more detail. And here's a guy at the start. He's in at number 1. I mean, we don't really need to talk in too much detail about this guy. It's Bijan Robinson. He's going to be the 1-1 in your league, Superflex or not, which these drafts are, by the way. I forgot to mention Superflex. He's going to go 1-1. He's going to be awesome. He's arguably the Dynasty 1-1 already for the running back position. Do me a favor, actually. I'll put out on Twitter, if you're not following on Twitter, at Dynasty Hot Seat. Nice and simple. How much on top of Bijan Robinson would you have to give to get the 1-1? That was cause of some interesting debate. So leave a comment down below. What do you think? You have to offer Bijan Robinson plus what to get? No, what am I talking about? Breece Hall. Jeez, Breece Hall plus what to get Bijan Robinson? You got to offer one Bijan for the 1-1, obviously. So if you got Breece Hall, what do you need to add onto him to get the 101? Leave it in the comments below. That would be great. We have a little switch up at 2. We have Young and Stroud have switched over, which has been happening quite a lot. I personally lean towards CJ Stroud in this from what I've seen. Bryce Young, the size is concerning. Not a lot of quarterbacks his size have been long-lasting, if that makes any sense. He might come out, do really well at the start, but, I mean, taking hits at that size is hard. And he's not exactly Kyler Murray with the, his avoidability and his speed. So I am concerned there, but he does have a fantastic arm. He's awesome to watch. So Bryce Young is at number 2 at the minute. And CJ Stroud, as we talked about, is in position number 3. We've talked at length about both of these guys. They're going to flip-flop between. It's really going to depend on landing spot, who gets the better one. If Bryce Young lands in the Texans, I'm terrified. CJ Stroud lands in the Colts, for example. That's interesting, right? Because there are some weapons there, like Michael Pittman Jr. It'll depend where they land. If that flip-flops and Stroud ends up in the Texans and Young is on the Colts, hey, I'm interested in Bryce Young all of a sudden. But we'll have to wait and see where they land. And interestingly, up at 4 now, climbing up 3 spots, is Will Levis. So this tends to happen, and I think it's usually a good idea, in Superflex to take those quarterbacks. Will Levis could be someone that this time next year is probably still going to be worth a first-round pick, even if he doesn't play at all. So the value of quarterback is a lot more sustainable than, say, if you take a running back and they bomb, like a Trey Sermon kind of situation, right? So the value there is going to last a bit longer. Will Levis is obviously super talented. He did a bit of a down year last year, but he has shown before that he is able, to lead an offense, which he's going to have to do probably because a lot of these guys are going to be given time to develop because so many teams need quarterbacks. Will Levis, he's got an NFL arm. Absolutely. He's got NFL athleticism. Absolutely. He runs an NFL style offense at Kentucky. He's just got to tie it all together. I think he's got all the talent there. So I am a fan of Will Levis. I like him here at 4. I think we might see him go here at 4 when it's all said and done. And the first receiver off the board, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's been sitting at ADP number 5 for a couple of weeks now. I think he seems to be consensus. Wide receiver 1, obviously super, super cautious last year. Didn't play a lot, didn't want to get injured. I still think he's got the most talent. You've got people like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave gushing about how good Jackson Smith-Njigba is and how much better he was than those two at Ohio State. Yeah, he's going to go to a team and he's going to do very, very well, as is, you know, the guy right behind him, wide receiver 2. Some people's wide receiver 1s is Jordan Addison, former Blindikoff winner. Smooth like butter, man. Just so nice to watch. Gets open. This is a guy, I mean, we talked about Young and Stroud and how landing spot, you're kind of worried about where they land. I don't care where Jordan Addison goes. That guy's going to be amazing. Even if he goes to the Texans, I don't care. The guy's too smooth. He's too good. He's going to do too well not to get open and not to get targets. So Jordan Addison, love that value at 6. Bit of a surprise, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs dropping a couple of spots down to pick number 7. If you've got pick 7 and you can land yourself Jahmyr Gibbs, slam dunk. Slam dunk. Because that is the kind of player that will help you get out of the middle where you are if you've got pick 7. Guy's electric, ball in his hands, awesome to watch. I cannot unsee, just like Garrett Price was saying, man, Jamal Charles, right? Jamal Charles, electric, great catcher, open field, forget about it. Love Jahmyr Gibbs. Can't wait to see, you know, where he ends up. If he ends up on like Miami Dolphins, no way he's going to be here at 7. No way. The guy's too good. He's too talented. Speaking of talented, I mean, Anthony Richardson, man, this is an interesting cat, right? This guy, I've sort of described him before as like a 4 seasons in one day quarterback. He can do everything. 1 minute it's bright, sunny. You know, he's running over defenders. He's throwing 40-yard passes on a rope. And then the next play, thunderstorms, fumbling the ball, interception, bad decisions. You know, he's so raw that he really needs to go somewhere where he can sit a year and then play next year. But I just don't know if the team that takes him are going to be able to do that. I mean, that would be the perfect thing, would be for, you know, him to go somewhere like Minnesota, right? Where he sits under Kirk Cousins for a year, learns the tools of the trade, and then Minnesota can move on from Kirk Cousins next year. That would be the perfect landing spot for him. I'd be actually more inclined to take him higher if I knew he wasn't going to play next year, as weird as that sounds. Because I think getting that year, getting his eye in and getting sorted like that will really help his value long term, whereas maybe playing right away could damage it. And it's kind of hard to come back from that. So Anthony Richardson, would love him to sit for a year and learn, you know, the tools of the trade a little bit more. That would be awesome. Then in at 9, guys, this class is awesome. I know like a few weeks ago, people were like, oh, it's the 24 class. The 24 class is really what you want. You can get a guy like Quentin Johnson at 1-9. This class is awesome. Like, really, really strong. This guy, this is a guy that is actually a lot of people's wide receiver 1. He's a big unit of a guy, gets up, wins the ball. You know, your prototypical wide receiver, NFL standard wide receiver. He's probably going to do well no matter where he goes. He can use size, he can use speed, he can use athleticism. He's got the holy trinity of those. Hopefully he kills it at the combine. That'll be really cool for his value to see where he ends up. People are going to get excited about Quentin Johnson. If he ends up on a good team with a good quarterback, people are going to get really excited about Quentin Johnson. Imagine he goes to the Chargers, Justin Herbert, right? Natural replacement for Mike Williams, who they're looking to trade allegedly. Yeah, that'll be so cool, right? Quentin Johnson on the Chargers. People get excited. He's not going to be there at 9, maybe. But then who do you move? I'm getting excited about all these people, all these guys. Which wide receiver are you most excited about? Why don't you leave a comment? Is it Johnson, Njigba, Addison, somebody else? Let me know. Then in at 10, a guy that settled in the first round, Zach Charbonnet. Yeah, this guy's going to go in the first round. The more I watch Zach Charbonnet, the more I'm just like, he's just awesome. He really does have the ability to be a bell cow running back, despite the fact that the NFL don't really do that anymore. I think he could come in and he can do it all. He's an absolute bull running the ball, big, strong. He's shown that he can catch as well whenever needed to. Love me some Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going to hit it off, do really, really well in the NFL. Next up, one of the safest guys in the draft, moving up 2 spots, Michael Mayer. I mean, what can you say about the guy? He's like, draw a tight end, and you get Michael Mayer. He can block, he can run routes, he can catch. Seems to be a good leader, good head and the shoulders. The only concern I have about Michael Mayer is he going to end up in that kind of mush between like tight end 5 and tight end 20, where there's like 2 points separating the whole amount of them, and it's just so touchdown dependent. Is he talented enough to break through that like top 5, top 4? I'm not sure. I think the first round is a little bit rich for me for Michael Mayer, because I think you can get guys like him for much, much cheaper than a first round pick. In fact, you definitely can. And then maybe you leave it and you go for some of these other tight ends going a bit later. Bit riskier in terms of are they going to make it, but that upside is maybe higher. Like a Dalton Kincaid, his upside is maybe higher than a Michael Mayer's. But, you know, Mayer, if you need a tight end, you're desperate for it, yeah, you can go for Michael Mayer and he'll get you points nice and safely every single week, that's for sure. Next, this is the first guy we're going to talk about, okay? First pick, or the last pick of the first round. Look at this, rising up 8 spots from 1 week ago is Kendre Miller. And you know what? I'm devastated because I was thinking I'd be able to get Kendre Miller middle of the second round in every single draft I was in. It seems like the gig is up with Kendre Miller. People are noticing that he's just so solid. You know, his contact balance is awesome. You know, he's not the huge guy, but his contact balance is super strong. Maybe sometimes he can have his pads a little lower if you're going to nitpick, but that's probably something they'll tell him right away, you know, whenever they're coaching him up. And he just does everything solidly. He runs inside, he runs outside, he can catch the ball. I do like drafting him at the end of the first round. However, is he going to get you running back 1 numbers? It's going to be hard to tell because he, unlike Charbonnet, doesn't seem like a guy that could really like lead a backfield in the NFL. He could be like a committee guy that's quite good. He's probably going to get you running back 2 numbers. So are you willing to pay a first round pick for a running back that's going to get you running back 2 numbers? You know, that's up to your style, I think, right? It's catching, like we talked about earlier, he can do it. He hasn't been used greatly in the catching game, but I think it's something that he is able to do. And you never know with these NFL teams. Like, look at Leonard Fournette became a pass catching back all of a sudden, right? So these things can happen in the NFL. It just depends what scheme he ends up in. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, pass catching back, goes to the Chiefs. Everyone says Brian Westbrook. Andy Reid says Brian Westbrook. Don't throw him the ball at all. So it's kind of hard to tell where people are going to end up. But yeah, Kendre Miller at the end of the first round, maybe a little bit too rich. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Tell me what you think about Kendre Miller. I do like the talent, but I mean, first round for him, maybe a bit too much for me. Moving on next, pick number 13. That is the first pick up in the second round. Josh Downs. Yeah, I'm still not sold on Josh Downs. I'm just like, where does he win in the NFL? How is he getting you points? Is he going to be touchdown dependent? He's not breaking off massive runs after the catch. So he might have to be a kind of guy that nickels and dimes his way to different points. But can he come in and do that right away in an offense? I don't think so. I think this is maybe a bit too rich for Josh Downs, but a lot of people really like him. So I'm not, saying that definitively right now. Just at the minute, from what I've watched, I think it's a little bit too rich for Josh Downs. And before that, he was in the first round, so he is dropping down. And a guy moving up is Zay Flowers. He's a guy that you watch and you just kind of go, huh, that's cool on so many plays. He can be a little bit gadgety, which, in the NFL, that'll depend where he ends up. But I do like Zay Flowers. I do like him at pick 14 as well. I think he will definitely go in the second round, maybe a little bit deeper down in the second round, depending on where he goes. But you do have to be cautious of these gadgety guys because they could be schemed in and do really well, or they could just have nothing at all. His draft capital is going to really depend here. Like, if a team takes him high, they're going to use him properly. If he's picked, you know, 4th round or so, 3rd, 4th round, be a bit more concerned about, you know, Zay Flowers and what he is able to do. We'll move on next guy, a non-mover. It's Tank Bigsby at 15. Tank is super, super solid. Love what I see from him. Kind of talked about him before in the last one. Don't have to go into too much more detail. Just the guy that is going to come in. He's going to do well. He's probably going to be in a committee as well. He's probably going to do well. So I think the 15th pick overall here, Tank, is good value for your 2nd round pick. A guy climbing up boards, Jalen Hyatt, the Biletnikoff winner. I think this is an example of a guy that at the minute he's sitting here, I think he's going to go up. You know, he is climbing. He's already up 3 positions. I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Hyatt kind of creeps into that, you know, high 2nd, back end of the 1st value, because, like I said, he did win that Biletnikoff trophy. He is lightning fast. He is so awesome to watch. And I think teams are going to fall in love with Jalen Hyatt. I think he's going to get really good draft capital. And I think someone's going to get excited. Kind of like we talked about before. If he, like with Quentin Johnson, like if they end up with if he ends up with like a Justin Herbert or a quarterback that people really, really like, then Jalen Hyatt's going to rocket up boards because teams are going to want to use him. I think he's going to do well in the NFL too. And let's move on. Pick 17. Look at this, right? 2 weeks ago, we talked about this guy, Tyjae Spears. He's going to end up 100% getting on this list because of what he did at the Pro Bowl, yeah? And at the Senior Bowl, sorry, not the Pro Bowl. At the Senior Bowl. Not only has he made it on the list, but he's creeped up every week, and now he's just smashed up the list. Look at that. Up 6 picks on average draft position. And because he's awesome, right? He's so much fun to watch. He can catch the ball. He's electric with the ball in his hands. You know, he gets in and out of cuts so quickly. Him and the guy that's next on the list are just, yeah, maybe the 2 most entertaining backs to watch. I think he will get okay draft capital. Not great, maybe. Teams will be worried about his size. I think if he does get 3rd round, you'd be pretty happy. If he goes higher than that, forget about it. You know, you got to take Tyjae Spears higher than this because teams are going to want to use him if they take him higher than that. I just hope he gets a chance, right? I hope he gets a chance with the ball in his hands to make some electric plays because that's how he's going to keep his place in the team. So hopefully he ends up somewhere that is running back needy, that has the ability to let him play and let him eat, you know. And the same for this next guy, HYATT. This guy's adamant he's going to run a 4.2. If he runs a 4.2, people are going to lose their mind. And he's not going to be here at 18 because, you know, we've seen what happens whenever people like John Ross, who aren't that talented, right? He comes in and smashes the 40. You know, he gets really good draft capital. People get good draft capital based on that 40 time, and HYATT is going to smash it. I have no doubt. We talked about before just how fast he is. He is Olympic level fast. His 200-meter personal best would have got him 5th place at the last Olympic Games. The guy's fast. You know that is what he's going to hang his hat on here, is nailing that 40 time. So I can't wait to see what he does. That will probably blast him up, you know, the NFL draft boards. Yeah, I can't wait to see where he ends up again. It's got to be somewhere that aren't just going to take him and figure it out later. Like, oh, we got to take this guy. He's still here. He's fast. Someone who has a plan for HYATT, and same with Tyjae Spears. You got to have a plan for him. You got to use him properly. I don't want him ended up in a reckless, you know, a reckless ownership, a reckless coaching squad. Someone with experience, someone who knows what they're doing, can use HYATT properly. That's where the value is going to come. Next up, pick number 19. We're still in the 2nd round here, obviously. Hey, it's Dalton Kincaid. He's climbing up everyone's board. Again, gutted because he was going in the 3rd round consensus about 4 weeks ago, and now he's just not. The guy's too good. He's too good. His hands are so nice, and everybody and their grandmother is looking for the next Travis Kelce. And what do they see? They see big, fast, white guy, Dalton Kincaid, right? Guy with great hands, moves well, doesn't move like Travis Kelce, moves well though. But his great asset is, you know, he had nearly 100 targets last year and he dropped the ball twice. So he's super safe. He can do stuff with the ball in his hand. You see him leaping over people. The guy's a massive, you know, guy as well. He's jumping over people, you know, trying to throw in spin moves even now and again. So he does really well with the ball in his hands. He is your prototypical pass catching tight end. Someone's going to draft him. Someone knows he's not going to be a blocker, so hopefully they will draft him and use him. He could end up being, you know, this year's Daniel Bellinger, where you get him, you're like really happy right away, and you can see the progression towards, you know, the upper ends of that tight end position. So Dalton Kincaid, a guy I really like. I don't know if pick 19 is too rich for me, because I was so used to seeing him go in the 3rd round, and I was really happy with that. And now he's rising up. I'm now not happy. Yeah. Don't know. Let me know what you think. Is 2nd round draft capital too much for Dalton Kincaid? I'm not sure. I haven't decided. This one shocked me a little bit. Dropping 8 places, which is huge. We have Sean Tucker. He's the 2nd guy we're going to talk about. So, Sean Tucker, if you watch his highlights, you'd think this is the best running back in the class, because he is frighteningly fast. He looks great on that highlight package. You know, he runs the ball well, and there'll probably even be some highlights of him catching it in there. But the more you watch like his game film and his game tape, the more I kind of wonder, is this guy just a good college player? And are his skills good enough to transfer to the NFL? He is fast, but he relies on his speed. Doesn't rely on technique, doesn't rely on, you know, anything like that. He just relies on his speed. He always, you know, time after time after time, it's the same trick. He runs the outside to the corner, runs the outside of the corner, runs the outside of the corner. I'm not sure if he's fast enough to do that against the NFL defenses. I don't know. I don't know. The combine's going to tell us a lot about him. You know, if he comes out and he is like, you know, world-class speed, then you're like, okay, he should be fine to be able to do that. But if he isn't, I would avoid. Absolutely avoid. Because he relies on the speed and he doesn't have too much technique to back it up. And that scares me a little bit, especially for long-term value. Sean Tucker, if we're still talking about Sean Tucker in 5 years, I would be shocked. Shocked. So yeah, I think he's a short-term prospect here at pick number 20. Then pick 21, a guy that's been plummeting forever, Zach Evans. Zach Evans can't hold down a place in a college team. How's he going to do it in the NFL? And I tried with Zach Evans. I really have. Tried to see what the hype is about. I know people love him. Some people have him as a running back 3. Nah. He keeps getting beaten out by other people in college. So I just don't see how he wins in the NFL. I wouldn't be shocked to see Zach Evans go in the 4th round. He could even slip further. Who knows? But I'm just not seeing it with him. He's okay, right? And I'm not looking for okay in the 2nd round. Just not going to waste a pick on him. Whenever I could have someone like, you know, Dalton Kincaid or Devon Achane or Tajay Spears, I'm taking those guys all day over Zach Evans, because I see the upside there. And with Zach Evans, I don't see it. If you're a Zach Evans guy, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think, but I just don't see it. Next, this is the last guy we're going to talk about in detail. Dropping 8 spaces is Kayshon Boutte. Now, a lot of people love this guy. A lot of people even saying he's their wide receiver 1, which I find bizarre. So I did a little digging into Boutte and his stats. So all I've heard is this guy was great. This guy was amazing. You just have to look into it, right? All right. So I looked into it. This guy's touchdown dependent. That's not good. So everyone always talks about, oh, but in 2021, 2022, he was amazing. And, you know, he got injured and he's not been the same since. And he scored 9 touchdowns, but in 6 games, right? He averaged about 80 yards a game. That's quite nice. But then I went and looked at the games, and it's against the McNeese Cowboys, Central Michigan. Like, nobody, right? He's meant to score that against those teams. He played 10 games in 2020. He played 6 games in 2021. And he played 11 games last year, and he was meh the whole year. Why should I be excited about this guy who can't finish the season in college? How's he going to sustain it in the NFL? A guy that hasn't looked good in over a year. too many red flags. Too many red flags for me. Again, I'd rather take a pick on somebody else here in the second round than Keyshawn Boutte, a guy that has limited playing time, bad injuries on his resume, and what, 6 games that people are actually impressed with? It's not enough for me. Not enough. And if people want to move him up and take him at the back end of the first, that's crazy to me. That's just crazy. I think back end of the second, more like it. But the more I'm reading up about it, the more I'm like, I'm just going to stay away. Even at this price, I'm going to stay away. So let's go on. Penultimate pick. Luke Musgrave. Hey, he made it on the list. Michael Bauer out there, very happy, right? Musgrave, third tight end on here. 3 tight ends going in the first 2 rounds. It's a pretty good tight end class, right? Luke Musgrave, if he stays in this list next week, he's going to be one of our featured players. So we're going to chat a bit more about Luke Musgrave. But yeah, great for him getting on the list. Second last one. We're going to wrap this up with Rashee Rice finishing up at the back end. He dropped 2 places, but he still stays in the second round. And Rashee Rice, I've asked for about 4 or 5 weeks for anyone who likes Rashee Rice to comment below and tell me why you like him. So far, I've had 0 comments. Let's make this a running theme. Anyone like Rashee Rice? Leave a comment below. And let's see if we can finally get one read out next week. So I'll read it out on air next week. If you're a Rashee Rice guy, let me know why he's good, and I'll read it out on the next episode of the ADP show. All right. And guys, that brings us to the end. That is the top 24 players based on the industry, the Dynasty Industry average draft position from their mock drafts. Some shocks in there for sure. I think some players maybe got overdrafted. We'll see if that balances out. Next week, it'll definitely change after the combine, that's for sure. So I can't wait to see what happens there. And then obviously when these players are drafted, it's all going to be really different. What I'm going to do is take the ones I've done so far. I'm going to have a pre-combine average. I'll release that on Twitter. Again, if you're not following, check it out at Dynasty Hot Seat. We'll do a in-between combine and draft, average draft position. Then we'll do a post-draft average draft position. And we'll see just how much these players fluctuate based on all of that. So looking forward to doing that. That should be good fun. And that's it. Thanks for joining. Again, if you haven't already done at the top of the video, make sure you're giving this a like and a subscribe. And there's a little bell notification there. You can click the bell if you want. I don't really care, to be honest, if you click the bell. But hit that subscribe and hit that like button. That would be fantastic. So thanks so much for joining. I will see you next week with the next ADP. Make sure you check out the next episode of the Dynasty Hot Seat mock draft for these rookies with the amazing Rich Cooling at Dynasty Island. That should be coming out real soon. So see you next time. And remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno and stay lit. Bye.